So, a child goes missing and then is discovered dead. And yet a driver has something to do with that. Like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things, combine them, make them into one. So yes, this is in fact a old story, but I like to make stories new again. It's not real old. It's from last month, September 2019. I just woke up, which is why I seem kind of grouchy. And voice, that's scandalous in itself. But yes, September 2019, this story, so it's not really old. It's in fact fair game. But yes, a toddler went missing and was found dead at a park in Pennsylvania. The toddler's name was Nalani Johnson. Have you guys heard this story? Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think and feel, as well as let me know if you heard this already. So Nalani Johnson, the child, was found 3 days after the father of the child stated a driver kidnapped the child. That's scary in itself. That's scary in itself to be a father of a child and then your child goes missing and a driver had something to do with it, right? That's a parent's worst nightmare. Let me pause. That's indeed a parent's worst nightmare to have something like that happen. A driver, because that's to say that the child could end up anywhere in any state involving a driver, right? So supposedly the father told authorities he didn't know the woman. That's what the father said at first, that he did not know the woman, which was the driver. Yet, once again, she turns out to be the one who abducted the child. But it was later discovered that the father's relationship with the driver was indeed a lie, right? He knew the driver. How you try to say, well, I don't really know that individual, right? That individual is the suspect or whatever, right? But I don't have no ties or anything with that individual. He in fact knew her. See the little girl right there? See how cute she is? It flashed a little bit too quick. But Paul Johnson, age 21. He was the father. Paul Johnson, age 21, and Sharina Nancy, age 25. She looks a little bit older than 25. We're gonna wait for her photo to flash again. Father age 21 and then the driver age 25, her looking older than 25, right? Those two individuals are the two I'm speaking on in relation to the child. Again, the child's dead body was found at Pine Ridge Park in Indiana County. Police believe Sharina Nancy to be involved in the child's death. That driver I spoke on, right? They believe she was the one kidnapper as well as killed the child, right? And law enforcement released that Paul Johnson, the father of the child, and Sharina, that driver, were in fact friends, despite him saying he didn't know her. Despite that, the story is all in shambles in itself because the father claimed to not know the driver, right? And yet the father and this driver, in fact, had a romantic relationship. See where I'm going with this? A young child is dead, found in a park. The father says that a driver, female, kidnapped the child, and then it comes to find out that that father indeed had a romantic relationship as well as was friends with the driver that, in fact, killed his daughter. How all this led to the child being killed, there was an argument between the child's father and that driver. Whatever petty dispute that they had, whatever issue, in fact, led to the child ending up in the hands of the driver and that child being killed. Based upon an argument. Nothing more than that. Just an argument. An argument, in fact, led to the child, yes, going missing and ended up dead. The driver. So, that's interesting to say that, let's see, the driver was indeed older than the father of the child. The driver was 25 and the father was 21. That's to say he liked older women, right? Older women are known to be possessive as well, right? Not all, we know, right? But the timeline on the child around her disappearance. September 1st, 2019, on a Sunday, the child's grandfather, I'm going to go down the timeline just a little bit because some people question, well, what in fact happened? How did it play out, or what was the timing factor, right? So the timeline on the child, September 1st, 2019, on a Sunday, the child's grandfather spoke with Channel 11 and he stated that he did not know Nancy, the driver. That's Nancy right there next to the child. Cute little baby, right? That's sad that it ended like that, right? Once again, the child's grandfather spoke with Channel 11 and he stated that he did not know Nancy, the driver. The grandfather didn't know Nancy, the driver, despite the child's father was friends with the driver as well as had a romantic relationship with the driver. Which means, in a sense, that father possibly had sex and everything else with that driver, right? And yet it's odd that even the grandfather didn't know who the driver was. Not everybody tells who they're involved with. I get that, right? But to know that a child goes missing, right? Nobody knows where she's at, as I say. That's interesting that even the father didn't know who the driver was. Let me pause right quick because I don't want this alarm to keep going off. It's in fact to let me know to record the video is why it's going off like that. So, let me see. September 2nd, 2019 at 1:30 a.m. Nancy, the driver, was charged with kidnap of a minor. September, that was the day after the grandfather was questioned. September 2nd, 2019 at 1:30 a.m. Nancy, the driver, was charged with kidnap of a minor and withholding information on a child. She too was involved in interference with custody of a child. Why? Well, let me hold off with that. So yes, again, at that time, Sharina, Nancy, the driver, was charged in abducting the child. So Nancy, the driver, told law enforcement it was the child's father who sold the child for $10,000 to someone. Did you get what I said? Nancy, the driver, told law enforcement it was the child's father. That driver came out her mouth and told law enforcement it was the child's father who sold the child for $10,000 to someone. The father wasn't charged for that at the time. That driver came out her mouth and told law enforcement that the father sold the child for $10,000. That's to say she got some people like that make me real leery, right? September 2nd, 2019 on a Monday. Let me make sure I'm not jumping over any dates or anything. September 3rd. Okay, because I got to come back to this. So, September 2nd, 2019 on a Monday, crews and search crews met at a Walmart in Delmont to work on searching for the child. Volunteers and family of the child, along with police and fire crew, they didn't find Nalani. That's on September 2nd, the timeline. September 2nd on a Monday. Again, crews and search crews met at a Walmart in Delmont to work on searching for the child. Volunteers and family of the child, along with police and fire crew, didn't find Nalani. So let me jump because I reversed the time by accident. So let me jump right quick. September 3rd. September 3rd at 3 p.m. September 3rd at 1 p.m. So, September 3rd at 1 p.m. Businesses along Route 22 were asked to check surveillance footage, which could help investigators, as photos were released of Nancy's car and a car seat Nalani was riding in when she disappeared. Did you get that? Because I said that kind of choppy. So businesses, in fact, along Route 22 were asked to check surveillance footage, which could help investigators, as photos were released of Nancy's car and car seat in which Nalani was riding in when she disappeared. That was September 3rd at 1 p.m. Let me go down to September 3rd at 3 p.m. So Nalani's body was in fact found. Her body was in fact indeed found September 3rd at 3:30 p.m. The child's body was found during a search which included helicopters, drones, and search dogs. Skipping to September 3rd at 7 p.m. My timeline is out of order, you guys. Let me pause right quick. But she, in fact, was found. So, yes, September 3rd at 7 p.m. on that Monday, it was released. The information pertaining to the little girl, that being the body of Nalani, pertaining to who sold the child, supposedly the driver. See, it's all, and no information has been released even further than that, right? In relation to who really sold the child, remember, because I said that the driver said that the child's father sold the child, right? The story is everywhere. It makes it even more scandalous. The child's story, because see, look, it's in question of if Nancy, the driver, sold the child. The mix up with that. You got what I'm saying? That type of stuff leads to disputes on the end of law enforcement. Because to spin heads with even that is to say even that makes, yes, that would make any law enforcement grimace with that sort of thing. To play games with a cute little child's life like that and she's dead is to say, well, who did what and the reason why, right? No further, remember this story, all this came out September 19th, and yet here it is a whole month. It's October going into November. No further information, right? And so the driver, Nancy, she claimed she was ordered by another to sell the child. And so for a driver, it shows that even she's a liar of some kind or something. Because the father, she said that the father, let's rewind back. She said that the father sold the child for $10,000, right? And then she comes out and she claims that she was ordered by another to sell the child. So then that's in question of, did the father tell her to sell the child? Because I know that the father lied from the beginning. The father lied from the beginning saying that he didn't know the woman. And yet come to find out he had a romantic relationship with her, possibly involving sex, as well as he was friends with her. See the twists and turns in that? Did you guys get that? Let me say this again. Nancy, the driver, we're going to go back because the story is just messy. Nancy, the driver, told law enforcement it was the child's father who sold the child for $10,000 to someone. But the father wasn't charged for that, because it was made to believe that he had nothing to do with it. Nancy, the driver, told law enforcement it was the child's father who sold the child for $10,000 to someone, right? That was days before, around September 2nd, September 1st, right, when the child first went missing. But then September 3rd, 7 p.m. on that Monday, when the information and more was released, right? The driver, Nancy, the driver, claimed she was ordered by someone to sell the child. So how do you jump from a father possibly being lied on by a driver, saying that the father sold the child for $10,000? How do you go from that to jump all the way to Nancy saying that she was ordered by someone to sell the child? And then the father also lied that he didn't know the driver, but come to find out he had a romantic relationship with that driver as well as was friends with her. But it's interesting because even the grandfather didn't know that woman, right? That could be a lie as well, right? That's to say nobody wants their hands on that. The father and the grandfather, right? And yet what led to the child, once again, this is my 10th time saying this, what led to the child ended up dead, supposedly, because you don't even know now with all the lies going on. Supposedly, the argument is what led to the child being dead, found in a lifeless body in the park. But to say that he lied, the father and possibly the grandfather as well as the driver, is to say, well, what really occurred? What in fact occurred with this child? Because everybody, the child, that shows you, see, that shows you the care with that in relation to care and commitment when it comes to a parent or whoever. Because see, if a father really loves a child, right? Remember, that wasn't the child's mother. That driver, that wasn't the child's mother, right? That's to say that the child's mother is really grieving pertaining to that. The father was involved with whatever, right? But you got to think about the mother that birthed the child, not the driver, right? And so to know that the child is deceased and two individuals had romantic relationship, that father and that driver, is to say neither one of them really cared about the child. They really didn't care. Usually a father would come out his mouth and say, yeah, I was involved with her. We got into an argument and heated whatever words was exchanged or hateful words was exchanged. And that driver killed my child or something, right? But to know that a father is withholding information is to say he's just as guilty as the driver. There's some type of level of care there pertaining to this child that involves there's a level of dishonesty and no care on the end of the father is what I'm trying to say. Because to be a father and say if that driver did kill your child, you leaving your child hanging to law enforcement. That shows a lack of care or something, unless that father really has something to do with it. Say the father was on drugs or something. Him and that driver was on drugs or something, and say they sold the child into some sex ring or sex slave, right, to get money, right? And so he don't really want to talk any further or discuss anything further pertaining to the child. Maybe that's why the mix-up or the cover-up. Because no grown man, even though this guy was 21 of the child's father, I'm saying, even though he's 21, that's still grown enough to say, that was my child and this is what happened. And come out and actually say what the dispute was, as in the reason why. And if that woman that you was involved with or had a romantic relationship with come out your mouth and say, well, yeah, we had an argument and she seemed like she was a violent type enough to kill or sell or all the rest, and come out and say. And yet for the father to be withholding stuff is to say he's more likely just as guilty as that driver. Because for both of them to be saying, well, this child was sold off, right? It's just messy. As in nobody, it's almost like as if nobody wants to claim the child. That child is dead, left there hanging on her own, and even in death, right? This was in fact, I did jump the timing. When it comes to a prayer vigil in relation to the timeline, that was September 3rd. That was before her body was found, when Amber Alert was on loud alert, there was a prayer vigil as well in hopes of the child being found, right, located, and yet she was her dead body. Later on, let me see. That's why it's good to write stuff down. When people ask, well, why is that written down? Because I'm not going to go off the top of my head stating any timeline with all that information in specific detail. I'm not going to say only a failure would do stuff, but you see, that's the right proper way. As in when Discovery does shows and all the rest, there's in fact print there. You just don't know because all you hear is a voice, right? There's no way for there to be proper detail as in analyzing and having specifics on paper and then not show it, knowing that I can mess up the timeline despite it being written and I messed up the timeline pertaining to the structure as in the actual timing. It was reversed. I reversed it by accident. But to do that off the top of your head is to say it could even be worse, as in you're leaving out details that even the viewers need to hear. Common sense with that. Not everybody use common logic and sense. Yeah, when I made videos, when was that? Last year? Jolie Musa, Asia Degree, when people was questioning, well, why are you using paper? Why are you reading? Why can't you just say it off the top of your head? You don't never say stuff like this off the top of your head. That's foolish in itself, to get on a camera and get on a mic set and then get to talking on a missing child that ends up dead, or even if she is still missing, and you're just going out there on camera freely speaking off the top of your head, as to say there's going to be a lot of information left out, which means you're going to leave your viewers left out with even that. And that's how the child gets left out, as in going missing for years and nobody can find her because specifics wasn't placed out there. Discovery, when it comes to discovery, when it comes to research and analyzing and deciphering and picking stuff apart, paper is used. Keypads and all the rest is used, as in notepads and all the rest, right? When it comes to TV shows, investigation, discovery, you just can't see it. Because remember, there's a voice there. As well as photos and all the rest. Video and motion and sound and all. You can't see paper and all the rest being there, but is in fact there because nobody can afford to leave any information out. And not only that, you don't ever want to be on investigation, discovery, or anything platform and start leaving stuff out or adding extra stuff in that might not need to be there, because even investigation discovery can't afford it in the funds if a lawsuit comes, yes, along the way, and you're saying something that shouldn't have been there or whatever. That's why you use paper even behind the scenes when nobody can see you in investigation discovery. The TV format, when you hear the woman talking, or male, whatever, with any TV show, I'm saying. There's in fact, yes, because how else do people think when it comes to roles? I'm going to get back to the story in a minute. People don't, they misunderstand or something. Everything in TV land has to be prescripted when it comes to even TV shows like investigation discovery and even films. When you got big lots and scenes and all the rest, even Tyler Perry movies and all the rest, all that's prescripted, as in there's packs and packs of paper that even the actors and actresses are prescripted, as in the old schoolers know that even that has to be memorized, yes. But when it comes to playing with people's lives, you don't play with people's lives, as in you have paper there. You don't ever want to. A movie is one thing, because see, to be an actor or actress going off a script that was written right, screenwriting and all the rest is involved in that, right? It's to say once that actor or that actress messes up, yes, you can stop the camera, or yes, and do a reload, reshoot and all the rest, right? And yet with me, I prefer not. I prefer to speak all the way through, as well as question all the way through. Remember, this is all Investigation Discovery's motto, right? This is all Discovery Inc.'s motto pertaining to how I want to do things. I prefer my hand written deeds over an outsider's. as in putting stuff and structuring stuff in order and all the rest. And then I'm told what needs to fit in and what needs to be taken out, right? I'm not going to sit on anybody's camera without any paper. That just is foolish in itself. Especially when it comes to kids, because to leave something out is to say, well, somebody might see the video. And then there you have it. Something's messed up with that, right? Child just never found, right? Not relating to this child, but just anybody. So questions. What would make a woman so scorned enough to take and or sell someone else's child? Repeating again. What would make a woman so scorned enough to take and or sell someone else's child? What would make somebody do that? Why would somebody need to be so mad about something like that? The argument. Because see, the argument more than likely was a petty dispute before, and I said that, right? But to repeat it 3 times is to say it again. Because to know if a child's life was taken, as to say, more lethal words had to have been exchanged or something. If a dispute ends in a child's life being taken, as to say somebody said something or something that maybe they shouldn't, right? So again, the father, Paul Johnson, and Nancy, the driver, both had a feud between one another. Yet, what would enrage a woman to take it as far as selling the man's child or killing the man's child? Whatever the situation was or is, and they're not telling, what could have been said to enrage that woman? For her to take it that far, could he have said he was leaving or not wanting to be involved with her anymore? What would make somebody, because yeah, to go even deeper is to start questioning that love relationship that even they kept hidden. So I find it interesting that the father lied to authorities first about not knowing Nancy, the driver, from the beginning. Usually a father that cares for a child, as in, yes, a father that cares for a child, right? Usually he's going to come out his mouth, and I said that already. But for him to not know her, the child was kidnapped by the woman he had a romantic relationship with. That's to question the identity of even the father. As in, why was he with her from the beginning, that driver? Why would that father be? Could he have been with her just for sex reasons? And maybe that upset the woman enough to... Because some of these men get involved with these women and have no feeling and no heart, right? They just using the woman to sleep with the woman, right? And then when they don't, no longer, as in they don't form attachments, right? And then when they're ready to let the woman go, they let the woman go, right? Sometimes without telling them. And that's too high, a child can end up dead, right? Like, would that father have known that that woman would have taken it as far as she did pertaining to the child? Could the father have known the driver would have taken it as far pertaining to the little girl? And no further information has been released. I said that before, right? Because see, I'll start to ask, well, how long was the relationship between that grown man and that driver? That's what law enforcement in fact question. You see what I'm saying? Because to know that he didn't want no part of it, despite him being a father, as I say, well, he lied about everything. And how long was their relationship to begin with? Who wouldn't ask that? That's one of the very first things law enforcement asks, right? What was the reason? Maybe he was just with the driver just to have sex with the driver or something. Maybe that's why the child is dead. Because see, not every woman likes that, her body being used up, right? Just for sex purposes. She might have wanted more. Maybe that was it. Maybe I just answered it. Maybe the woman wanted more despite their relationship being romantic or something. Maybe she wanted more or something. Maybe she wanted a child. Anybody consider that? Maybe that woman wanted more from the father that even he wasn't interested in providing. Maybe she wanted a child and he didn't want to give her one. Or maybe she was jealous of the relationship that the father's relationship with the child. Because see, to know that father lied is to say now it stands issue as in the problem. We can only wait and see what's to happen with even this story, right? The ending, the findings with that, the end results. I don't like stuff like that. That father needs to say. So we're in fact on investigationdiscovery.com. The ID logo stands in the far left corner. Yes, it in fact does, right? New episodes. So new episodes to receive an audio visual. Yes. Preview and all the rest is in fact click the play button. You would in fact receive an audio visual. This is in fact padlocked down. You can't really see it. Let me move over. Some of these are in fact on guard. No paparazzi needed, right? That's so sad that little girl had to die like that. She could have been anything in her life, and yet to have a young life taken like that is to say somebody else need to be taken with even that. Being set in jail for life. And some of these parents that don't want to come out and tell what happened, or whoever had whatever to do with these missing children like that, they should in fact be jailed for life. Because to be involved with a life that was taken is to say you were involved with that. You might not have killed the child and yet you lied with that is to say you might in fact need to go to jail because it shows a lack of care. So unlock episodes, audio preview, click the play button right here and you would in fact receive a audio visual preview with that. It's going ghost. Recommended for you. Shouts out to Lieutenant Joe Kenda as well as Paula. As in certain things are missing on certain days. Shows that certain things want to take a break. And yet it's not human. That's the issue with computerization at times. ID Go original series. So Crime Feed, to gain access to the Crime Feed news, crimefeed.com is a click right within here and you would in fact be directed to the outside. Yes, crimefeed.com, I just said. Full of latest, the greatest murder and mayhem, right? To receive a newsletter is to type your email address in and click next and you would in fact receive a newsletter from investigationdiscovery.com. I repeat it so much in this story because I have an issue with the story. Anytime a parent doesn't want to claim what could have happened or whatever, right, is to say they more than likely had some involvement in it, in the child's death or something, as something more is not being told by the father, which is why the lies and all the rest, right? He might in fact need to go to jail with her, that driver. So let me know what you think and feel about this video. I'm gonna end it off for now. I'm gonna enjoy my day and hopefully you enjoy yours, and that's to be said for now.